Good evening, I'm Michael and you're watching Kini News. Before Pakatan Harapan held federal power, they were at the forefront of fighting for free and fair elections, with many prominent then Pakatan Rakyat leaders even taking part in several Bersih rallies. But now that they're the government, they don't seem to care about that anymore, at least according to Bersih. Bersih 2.0 said Pakatan Harapan suffered a humiliating defeat in Tanjung Piai because they insulted the people by trying to exchange goodies for their support. Its chairperson Thomas Fann told a press conference that despite Harapan having promised Tanjung Piai millions of ringgit in allocations, the voters still gave their votes to BN.
People should not be taken for granted, that they are foolish enough to give you their votes just because they receive some benefit from you. Well, thanks to Pakatan themselves, who over the years taught the people, take the money but vote the other side. Well, people actually did that this time.
He added that Bersih was also disappointed to see Harapan continuing to flout election rules and commit electoral misconduct despite having fought against them before becoming the government. The press conference at the Bersih 2.0 office in Petaling Jaya this morning was held to announce the electoral watchdog's report on the November 16 by-election in Johor, which saw BN candidate from MCA Wee Jack Seng scoring a landslide victory with an over 15,000 majority. Did you know today is the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people? The Malaysian Islamic Youth Movement ABIM, together with several other groups, sent a memorandum to Stefan Presner, the UN Resident Coordinator in Malaysia, to seek solutions to the atrocities faced by the Palestinians.
And we hope by having this kind of memorandum and the response from Mr. Stefan, the head of coordinator resident of the UN in Malaysia, he's very positive and he always support the cause of Palestinian people, and his response, he will continuously or directly transmit our memorandum, our concerns to the UN Secretary General office.
The delegation was led by ABIM President Muhammad Faisal Abdul Aziz. One of their demands is for the UN to take legal action against Israel. He said Israel is consciously and continuously committing human rights violations.
By having never-ending violence or violations committed by Israel, atrocities, dozens or hundreds of people or casualties of the civilian people mark justification for the UN resolutions to be materialized.
The memo was sent in conjunction with the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, officially observed each year on November 29. Your chances of securing a good job may improve with an education, but your resume will not look good if people only remember you as that guy who did the Nazi salute. The German embassy in Kuala Lumpur has condemned the action of a University Malaysia Sabah UMS graduate who showed the Nazi salute during a convocation ceremony last weekend. In a statement, the embassy said, considering the terrible suffering that was brought upon the world during the Second World War by the Nazi regime of Germany, it condemns any show of support for a regime responsible for genocide and would expect the Malaysian government and university authorities to do the same. On Tuesday, UMS vowed to take appropriate steps to make sure such incidents do not repeat. This was after the graduate salute went viral on social media, drawing flack from netizens. The graduate later explained that the salute was in protest of what he believed was Jewish dominance over the world. He also expressed support for the Palestinians in Gaza, as well as his resentment for Jews. Who is going to officiate what? That's one of the hotly debated topics in PKR over the past few weeks, but it looks like that issue can finally be put to rest. PKR has decided which leader will officiate its forthcoming Women's Wing and its Youth Wings Congress. This was announced by Party Communications Chief Fahmi Fadzil at a press conference in PKR's headquarters in Petaling Jaya this morning.
Pihak Sekretariat bagi Kongres Wanita memaklumkan bahawa ia akan dirasmikan oleh Yang Berhormat Timbalan Presiden. Manakala untuk Kongres EMK ia akan dirasmikan seperti yang dimaklumkan oleh Sekretariat Kongres EMK ia akan dirasmikan oleh Yang Berhormat Timbalan Perdana Menteri.
PKR has been embroiled in a public factional friction in recent weeks over who should officiate the annual meetings of its wings. Azmin supporters have maintained that he ought to officiate both wings as per tradition. This came after PKR Youth Chief Akmal Nasser rescinded Azmin's invitation and instead asked Wan Aziza, as the party's highest-ranking government official, to open its congress. Police have identified two individuals who were involved in bringing back the ashes of former Communist Party of Malaya leader Chin Peng to Malaysia and have summoned them. Chai Kan-fuk and Tong Yi, the two coordinators of the group which handled the ashes of the deceased communist leader Chin Peng, have been summoned by the police. Chai, 81 years old, had given a statement at 10 a.m. yesterday, while Tong, 82 years old, met cops today at the Ipoh District Police Headquarters. When contacted, Tong said he received a call from Bukit Aman Police Headquarters officers yesterday afternoon. However, he did not feel worried or afraid to give a statement as he was accompanied by a few friends, including Chai. He said he believes everything will be all right as society is now more open and progressive. Meanwhile, Chai told Malaysia Kini that he had given a statement for more than 1 hour yesterday afternoon. According to Chai, the police officers treated him well and only asked about the details on how they brought back Chin Peng's ashes from Thailand. Which part of the government's budget 2020 are you excited about? Because Parliament has approved it. The majority in Dewan Rakyat have voted to pass the Supply Bill Budget 2020 through a voice vote. Dewan Rakyat Speaker Muhammad Arif Yusof announced the decision about 6:40 p.m. on Thursday. Earlier, the Budget Bill 2020 was tabled for the third reading by Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng and was seconded by Deputy Entrepreneur Development Minister Muhammad Hatta Ramli. Lim on October 11th tabled Budget 2020, which allocated 297 billion ringgit, not including a contingent savings of 2 billion ringgit. Budget 2020 is the second budget of the Pakatan Harapan government since taking over Putrajaya on May 8, 2018. Coming up next, thousands in Hong Kong celebrate Donald Trump and the United States. Iraqi forces have opened fire at protesters, killing at least 45. North Korea is back with its missile test. All that and more after this. Instead of the usual violence we're used to seeing in Hong Kong over the past few months, people came together to thank the United States and its president, Donald Trump. Thousands of protesters in Hong Kong staged a Thanksgiving rally yesterday night to thank the US Congress and President Donald Trump for passing a bill backing anti-government protesters in Hong Kong. People gathered in the heart of the city with flags and signs giving thanks to the United States. On Wednesday, Trump signed into law a congressional legislation which supported the protesters despite angry objections from China.
The Chinese government is unwavering in its determination to oppose any external forces interfering in Hong Kong's affairs, to implement our one country, two systems, and to safeguard national sovereignty, security, and development interests. We advise the United States not to act arbitrarily, otherwise China will take firm countermeasures.
For months, demonstrators have shown anger at what they see as Beijing's meddling in the freedoms promised to them when the former British colony was returned to Chinese rule 22 years ago. China denies interfering in Hong Kong, which has enjoyed a rare lull in violence over the past week after local elections on Sunday delivered a landslide victory to pro-democracy candidates. Blood, fire and chaos in Iraq as local forces kill at least 45 protesters after an Iranian consulate was torched. Iraqi security forces shot dead at least 45 protesters on Thursday after demonstrators stormed and torched an Iranian consulate overnight in what could mark a turning point in the uprising against the Tehran-backed authorities.
Young men burned it. When it was set on fire, all the riot police in Najaf and the security forces started firing on us, as if we were burning Iraq as a whole. The riot police fired tear gas canisters intensively and the security forces showered us heavily with live bullets.
Bloodshed spread across Iraq on Thursday and became one of the most violent days since the anti-government uprising began at the start of October. The violence and the consulate burning could mark a turning point in the uprising against the Tehran-backed authorities after weeks of mass demonstrations and hundreds of deaths. Young, mostly Shiite protesters say politicians are corrupt and beholden to foreign powers, especially Iran. The protesters had blamed the government for a failure to recover from years of conflict. Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi has promised electoral and anti-corruption reform. The protests are the most complex challenge facing the Shiite-dominated ruling class that has controlled state institutions and patronage networks since the 2003 US-led invasion that toppled longtime Sunni ruler Saddam Hussein. North Korea has launched 2 short-range missiles on Thursday. North Korea broke a month-long lull in missile tests on Thursday, its southern neighbor said, firing 2 short-range missiles into the sea off its eastern coast. a move analysts describe as a possible Thanksgiving reminder to the United States. As the clock ticks down to a year-end deadline Pyongyang has set for Washington to restart stalled denuclearization talks. The South Korean military's Joint Chiefs of Staff said that the North appeared to have tried out its new multiple rocket launchers, sending 2 rockets 236 miles from the eastern coastal town of Yeonpo.
North Korea's act is unhelpful for efforts to ease tension on the Korean peninsula. The military expresses strong regret and urges the North to stop any action that raises military tension.
Analysts said the launch could be a message to the US, a display of weapons development program on the anniversary of North Korea's 2017 test for intercontinental ballistic missile capable of hitting the US mainland. Thursday's was the first such launch since the end of October, when 2 suspected missiles were fired again into the sea between the Korean peninsula and Japan. Japan's defense ministry said Thursday's launch did not enter its airspace or the waters over which it has rights, but Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said it poses a serious threat to the international community. Denuclearization talks with the US stalled in October, with Pyongyang demanding that Washington lift sanctions and end joint military drills with South Korea, as well as threatening to walk away from negotiations.
And here are several other news highlights from today. That is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching. But before we go, we leave you with stunning visuals of thousands of migrant birds arriving in North China Lakes for a stopover.